warriors at the Global Chess League. Pawn up to e4, and Magnus says I'm all out for blood with the Sicilian, but Jan says I want to play very solid. He goes for the Alpine. e5 played. Now this is a slightly unusual choice by Magnus. You do weaken the d5 square, but Magnus likes to play it this way in many different openings. Bishop comes out to c4, and Magnus baits Jan. You could see there Jan with his face going knight g5, attacking the f7 pawn, some sort of a fried liver attack. Takes, knight takes. Now can you sacrifice your knight here and play this? Well, the problem is the knight can no longer come out to c3, and that's the reason why Jan goes pawn up to d4, defending his knight. Magnus chops off the pawn, and now Jan plays his queen up to b3, attacking the knight. And if the knight moves, f7 is hanging. What a sharp opening there. He takes bishop e6, takes here, pawn takes, and Jan chops off this pawn. Wow, who is better here? It feels like black's structure is completely ruined, while white is better here. But don't forget, black has an extra pawn. However, what Jan should do now is simply capture here and go into this endgame. But he decides to actually keep the queens on the board. And what has happened is that over here Magnus seems quite fine. He's able to castle, and although opponent has the bishop pair and his structure is not the best, still he has a very powerful central presence. Look at these clump of pawns there. He brings his knight out. Bishop comes back to d1, and Jan is saying to Magnus, I'm going to maintain my two bishops there. They are my precious. Rook comes here, and bishop comes out to f3. Pawn takes pawn, and Jan takes with the knight. Magnus chops it off. The queens are traded. Rook takes, pawn takes, and you can actually go and win a pawn here by taking, and that is what Magnus does. He takes on c3. He's now a pawn up, but those pawns are doubled up and actually don't mean much. The position is around equal. Rook a d1, but Magnus is a monster when it comes to endgames, so you have to tread carefully against him. He brings his knight to the center, attacks the bishop on b2. The bishop comes up, now threatening maybe slight move like this, attacking the bishop. So Magnus pushes his pawn there. Bishop comes up to d4. The main point was, if you had taken here, he wanted to move his knight back and attack both the bishops. So first bishop d4, rook comes here, he chops the pawn and now takes the pawn. Jan takes care of his back rank. The knight comes to d2 and the bishop moves away. The position has simplified a bit and Jan is still a pawn down, but his bishops are very powerful and it is not at all easy for Magnus to convert this. But Magnus likes to grind equal endgames, and that is what he's going to do. He's going to keep playing. But Jan is very confident. This is something that he's learned over the years. To be confident against Magnus Carlsen is very important. He plays rook a3 now. Very important move. If the bishop moves, there could be a deadly discovery. So bishop goes back. Rook comes to b3 and now he takes on e3. Takes. Now h2 pawn is hanging. You can actually save it. But Jan in fact goes behind the a pawn. Magnus chops it off. And here we are now into an endgame where actually Magnus has an extra pawn but opposite colored bishops. So it's closer to a draw than Magnus winning this. But still, you have to be careful as Jan, because if g5, g4 comes in, his king is in trouble. And more than that, what is the problem is the g3 pawn would be very weak. So Ian Nepomniachtchi has to play very carefully here. This was the mistake, bishop coming back. He could have done a check here with his rook, which was a better move, but he went back with his bishop, and now this is actually trouble time here for Ian, because now g4 is coming in. Meanwhile, you want to take this pawn, but your e6 pawn is hanging. So Magnus actually creates a passer. Jan still has defensive chances. He gives a check and he goes behind the passer. Yeah, that's what his idea seems to be. He wants to move it behind the pawn. Yes, he does. Pawn pushes forward. You can't take this pawn because of check and you lose the rook. But a very good idea is to sack your bishop here and then go into this endgame. However, he first went king d4, rook comes here and now he takes, but he misses that there was an intermediate check and then another check. And what has happened now is that pawn comes up to h2 and it's a very powerful pawn. You can't stop it. Bishop wants to come here and try and stop it, but Magnus actually goes rook f2 and does not let the bishop come there. The rook comes back. The h-pawn is very powerful. The king is joining in the battle step by step. This is losing and he makes a new queen. It's a rook versus queen now, and white also has a pawn. Is there some drawing chances for Magnus Carlsen, for Ian Nepomniachtchi here? I don't think so. Magnus is going to convert it. It's a theoretical endgame and Magnus knows these stuff from a very young age. He's very powerful in these endgames. So Ian is trying to wait. The way in which you can win this position is to coordinate your king and queen in the best possible way. And that's what Magnus is doing. He's first giving some checks, pushing the king back, and now a check from the other side. King here, check, he moves there, king comes up, and look at those little moves. He's actually hoping that Ian pushes his pawn forward, but Ian isn't doing that. He's waiting, and Magnus is struggling a bit to convert this. King comes back now. Yeah, there you have it. The king and the queen have to coordinate. Without it, you cannot win this game. Rook up, queen to f6, rook e6, and now another check. The king moves away, check from the other side, king comes up, and he waits. He waits with his queen. Rook up, and Magnus gives a check. You have to be careful for stalemating ideas. For the time being, everything is under control. He pushes his pawn, the king goes up, pushes another pawn, king moves forward, rook here, check, rook there, check, and finally he chops the pawn. It's rook versus queen, and that too the rook is far away, and that's why the queen is going to give some checks and then eventually get the king, get the rook. Check from the he's look how Magnus doesn't give checks. Yes, he moves his queen in a way so that the next move does not come with a check, and Ian resigns as a mate is incoming from this side. And let's hear what they have to say.